BookTube, it's Missy, and today I'm here to share with you guys a reading challenge that I worked on for the year 2016, and that is hashtag read your own damn bookshelf. This was created by Andy over at Estella's Revenge. I believe her channel linked down below. I did very well, and I will show you what books I read in a huge pile, and then I will go through all of the books quickly with you. So let's get started. Excuse my messy room, but this is all of the books that I read this year, all on my bed. I read a total of 52 physical books, and then I read a few, I think it's like 8 audio books that I had the books for, and I read about 2 ebooks. 2 ebooks, like actual books, and then I read like 4 or 5 novellas, again from my e-reader. So all of that is technically from my bookshelf. So yeah, there is the overview of all of the books that I read this year. Insane. Now that I have put all of the books in piles by month, I can share with you guys the books that I've read from my shelves. I added them all up, and I read a total of 73 books out of 146 that I read for the entire year. 73 were mine. So I thought that was pretty spectacular. Like I said, I put these in piles, so I'm going to go through the books quickly with you. I'm not going to give a synopsis because I've talked about all these books in all of my wrap-up videos for the whole year. If you would like, I can leave all of those wrap-up video links down below. And also the 3x5 cards are either going to be books that I've already given away for tradeaways, or that were ebooks that I didn't want to... When I was, making that picture, I needed to have a placemat for the book. So I will hold up the 3x5 card, but I'll actually put a picture of the book in this section. Let's get started. So for January, I read Insanity by Susan Vaught, which is a paranormal YA. I read Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, a very skinny classic. It was okay. I read Mary, the Summoning by Hilary Monahan. This is the first book in a duology about Bloody Mary. This was amazing. I read Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, a sci-fi YA bomb book. Loved it. Huge. And then I completed Beautiful Darkness by Cami Garcia and Margaret Stoll, and this is the second book in the Castro Chronicles. On to February, I read Spirit Bound by Rochelle Mead. This is book 5 in the Vampire Academy series. Then I conquered It by Stephen King. This book is over 1,000 pages. It's like 1,300 pages. I read this on my Kindle, which is insane. I think it was actually better because this book is so long. If I would have been able to see the pages, I think I would have freaked out. And then I completed Nosferatu by Joe Hill. I listened to this on audio. It was really, really good. The narrator is the Captain Jane. I don't know what her last name is, but from Star Trek Voyager, I think. And then I started Soulless by Gail Carriger. This is the first book in the Parasol Protectorate series. Right, on to March, I read Lolita, listened to Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. The narrator of this is Jeremy Irons. Amazing English actor. His voice is a dream. If you haven't read Lolita and are terrified of the subject matter, listen to it on audio by Jeremy Irons. Oh my goodness. And then I also completed A Wrinkle in Time by Madeline L'Engle. I gave that one away too. On to April, I read Living Dead Girl by Elizabeth Scott. This was a trade-away book I gave away. I continued on with the Parasol Protectorate series with Changeless by Gail Carriger. And then I read Carrie by Stephen King. This is his very first novel that he wrote in the 70s, I think. I think it was 73 maybe? I could be wrong. And then I completed the Vampire Academy series with Last Sacrifice by Rochelle Mead. If you watched Penelope's favorites video of 2016, she mentioned Spirit Bound as her favorite of the series. I have to agree, this one was also pretty good because then I got closure, but of course we all want to listen or read about Rose and Dimitri. That's all I want to know is Dimitri and Rose, and so this had them together as well, but Spirit Bound, which is book 5, had the most awesome scenes with them. Yes. And then I completed The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. This was a buddy read. It was super awesome. And then I continued on with book 3 of the Castor Chronicles, which is Beautiful Chaos by Cami Garcia and Margaret Stoll. Okay, so May was a pretty good reading month for me as well. I did In the Woods by Tana French. This is an adult mystery, and this was also a buddy read. And then I read Blameless by Gail Carriger. This is the 3rd book in the Parasol Protectorate series. These were also buddy reads. And then I read Something New, Tales from a Makeshift Bride by Lucy Measley. I requested this from For Second Publishing because I love Lucy Measley. If you have not picked up one of her memoirs yet, because she's a comic writer, I would totally do so. It's so fun. And then I finally finished Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. This book took me about 6 months to read, or I know more than 3 months. It took me a while to read this. I could not get into it in the physical book, and I ended up having to listen to it on audio for the rest of the book, because if you haven't read Gillian Flynn, her characters are so flawed that you hate them to death the entire... I never am rooting for any of her characters, and I gave this one 4 stars. Oh, the ending was better than the beginning. Just reading her books just irritate me. Love-hate relationship with Gillian Flynn. I will read anything she writes, but I despise all of her characters. Adult writer. Thrillers and stuff. And then next I read Salem's Lot by Stephen King. This is the 2nd book that he wrote, and this is a vampire adult novel. Really good. And then I got Good Night's Sleep by Jack Fallman. This was a, it was sent to me by a publisher that wanted me to read it, and I give it 2 stars. It wasn't that good. And then I read The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn. This is a short little novella. This is the only book that I've read by her that I wasn't upset with. I was totally neutral throughout the book. I was kind of rooting for the main character. The ending, the twist was, I wasn't expecting that. So yeah, it was good. And then I read a tiny little ebook called Dream Dark by Cami Garcia and Margaret Stoll, and this was 2.5 from the Castor Chronicles. And then I finished up the month with Brain on Fire, A Month of Madness by Susanna Callahan, and this is a nonfiction of a month that she was having some kind of like, it was like a brain bacteria that caused her to have a bunch of mental problems. Everyone couldn't diagnose her right away. They thought she might be schizophrenic or bipolar, and in the end they realized it was a bacteria, and so once she got all the medicine she was totally fine. But it was tragic for her to feel herself and everybody around her start to slip away into madness. And excellent, excellent read. If you haven't picked up this nonfiction and you're interested about mental health, I would pick this one up. All right, next we have June, and I read Vampires in the Lemon Grove by Karen Russell. This is a collection of short stories. She writes very weird fiction. And then I read Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. Very out of my comfort zone, 5-star read, totally amazing. It's like a contemporary dystopian. I don't know what it is. It was good. And then I read Timeless by Gail Carriger. This is book 5. And then I read Winter People by Jennifer McMahon. This was the first book that I've read by her. This is an adult thriller. It's dual timeline, so it has the past and the present mixed together. Different POVs, really good. And this was also a buddy read. And then I read Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lois Carroll. Finally, super good. Loved it. Yeah, I think I read this for the Booktubeathon. And then I read a teeny tiny, I think it was only 3 pages. The Meeting was an ebook by Rochelle Mead, and this is 1.1. So this was right after Vampire Academy, before you read the second book, which is Frostbite. Then I read The Woman in Black by Susan Hill. This was amazing, a gothic horror tale. I would put her on par with Shirley Jackson, and she's more of a modern gothic writer. I think she wrote this in the 80s. Very good. If you haven't read it, I would pick it up. And then I read Russell Brand's Trickster Tales, The Pied Piper of Hamelin. I purchased this because it is illustrated by Chris Riddell, and I absolutely love his illustrations. Russell Brand is funny sometimes, and this one had a lot of fart jokes in it, so if you like that kind of stuff, you might like it. But again, mainly I got it because of the illustrations, and they're just so good. Those weren't very good pictures, but this was really good. If you like the artwork, I would get it just for the artwork. And then I finished up the month with Crimson by Laura Foster. The author actually contacted me and sent me this book, and it's about angels and demons, and it was good. For July, July was kind of a slow reading month. I had Bad Girls Don't Die by Katie Allender. I didn't really like this. I gave it 3 stars, but I do have the other 2 books in the series, so I'm going to keep this book and then finish up the series and see how I like it. And if I don't like it, I'll just give the series away as a trilogy in one of my tradeaways. But this is a YA ghost story, and it was just all right. Then I read 30 Days of Night, the omnibus book 1 or volume 1. This is written by, who's it written by? Steve Niles, and the art is by Temple Smith, but I think it might change per book. There are 3 volumes in here. I liked the story, but I liked the drawings more. The illustrations are really good and dark and creepy, and the vampires are amazing in this series. I got my books mixed up. Anyways, I think I read Heartless the previous month, and then Timeless the month after that. But this is book 4 by Gail Carriger. Like I said, I continuously mix up these books for some reason, but I did finish the series this year, and I absolutely loved it. If you want a stellar adult urban fantasy series set in Victorian London with steampunk elements, highly, highly, highly recommend Gail Carriger. Her wit and her dialogue is amazing, and her characters are so fun to read about. So for August, I had another short month. I read Hotel Iris by Yoko Ogawa. This was the S&M Japanese, it wasn't a thriller, it was like an erotica Japanese S&M book, which I was not I was super surprised when I started reading it because I thought it might have to do with paranormal or horror because the first book that I read by Yoko Ogawa, that's what it was about. So this was shocking. I gave this away for a trade away. And then I started the Insanity series by Cameron Jace. This is, of course, a retelling of Alice in Wonderland. Not the best writing in the world, but absolutely fun to read, and I cannot wait to continue on with the series. And then I read a teeny tiny graphic novel called Mad Max Fury Road Volume 1 by George Miller. Again, I gave this away. This one went to Penelope. And then during my camping trip, I read The Lake by Tananarive Due. I gave this 2.5 stars. It wasn't a very good novella. It wasn't scary at all. It was kind of confusing. But I did read something from my ebook, so go me. My ebook, my e-reader. And then I read the incredible Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory by Caitlin Doughty. This is another nonfiction about a woman who becomes a cremator, or I think that's what you call it, a cremator, and then realizes that her true passion is to become a mortician. So that's what she does. It's an amazing life story of when she started out at 23 until her being a mortician now, and goes through all of the pros and cons of being buried, picking out caskets, being cremated, what to do with the ashes. It's amazing and definitely interesting, and I loved learning all about this. Such good writing. She's so funny. She makes death bearable, if that makes sense. Like, when you think about dying, you could have all these different emotions. You could be sad and scared and worried about the unknown, and then she makes it light and says it's something that is natural, and so very good read. I liked it a lot. And then I read another ebook, I'm shocked, and this is called Pure Evil by Jessie Bastide. This was about 190 pages, so it was a pretty good length novel. I gave this one 3 stars. It was just okay. I don't know if this is his first book, but it wasn't very scary either. I actually liked the bad guy in this book more than the other characters. And then the very last book that I read in August is Darkness Becomes Her by Kelly Keaton. I hate this cover. I want to get the other one because then it will match the other 2 books in the series that I have. But this was really, really fun. It's about a kick-ass character who was born with violet eyes and silver hair, and she's different than everybody else, and she's a bounty hunter, and she gets mixed up with all these different little it's an urban fantasy. So she then finds out there's these misfits, and she joins them, and they're all different kinds of people. There's like a ghost seer and a vampire and yada yada, and she finds out mythology's real, and it's a hodgepodge YA amazing book, and I cannot wait to finish the series this year. Now we're into September. I read The Peculiar Haunting of Thelma B. by Erin Petty. This is a middle grade ghost story. Loved it. Then I read Hex by Thomas Old Huvelt. My friend still has the book. She finished it, but she hasn't given it back to me yet. This is an amazing book. If you want something super scary, pick this up. It's a Swedish translated horror novel set in America for us Americans. So there's 2 different versions of this book, one set in Sweden in his hometown, one set in America. Both are good. I even compared the endings with a Swedish guy, I think on Goodreads, and we were comparing the endings, and it was so fun. I can't believe the differences. But yeah, great, great horror novel. And then I picked up my very first John Scalzi book. This is called Lock-In. This is a adult sci-fi. John Scalzi is amazing. I heard that he was a great writer, but I didn't realize how good he would be, and I don't really read sci-fi, so this was so fun. I listened to this on audio. It's narrated by Will Wheaton, and I like him, so I'm kind of biased, but the story was very good. And to keep on with my John Scalzi, I then listened to Red Shirts, again, not written. It is written by John Scalzi, but narrated by Will Wheaton. Again, an amazing book. It's a parody of Star Trek. Super funny. Absolutely loved it. And then I finished the month off with The Night Sister by Jennifer McMahon. This is the second book that I've read by her. This one wasn't as good as Winter People. This one, again, is dual timeline, different POVs, and it's about a monster. Now on to October. October was an excellent reading month for me. So the first book that I read was True Ghost Stories by Terry Deary. I already gave this book away. It was just a collection of ghost stories. And then I read The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. Not that scary. It was good writing though. And then I read Bird Box by Josh Malerman. Oh man, another amazing horror novel. It's an adult horror thriller. Gosh, this makes me want to read anything written by Josh Malerman. Is that good? Then I picked up Burning the Honeysuckle Girls by Emily Carpenter. I received this by Social Book Co. And I'm part of their reviewing program, so I got to pick this book, and then they sent it to me, and then I read it, and that's really cool. And yeah, so this was a fun read. I gave this one 3.5 stars. I think this is a adult mystery. And then I picked up The Gathering by Dan Poblocki. The series is called the Shadow House series. This is a middle grade. It's about paranormal. Obviously, there's like a little ghost girl on the front. But it's about 5 little kids, and they're stuck in a house and trying to survive, and very scary. For children, not for me. And then I read The Amityville Horror, which is a true story by Jay Anson. This is like a horror classic, and so I had to read it, and I finally did, and it was pretty good. Again, not scary. I'm desensitized, I guess. None of these books are scary. And then I finally picked up and finished The Mercedes by Stephen King. I think I started this in June and didn't finish it until October. I finally was able to finish it though because I listened to it on audio, and that helped out a lot because it is a pretty long book, and it's a crime thriller, and I liked it. Then I picked up The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. Not at all as good as the first book that I read by her, which is We Have Always Lived in the Castle. That one was perfection. This one I gave 3 stars to. It did not meet my expectations. And then I finished the duology Mary Unleashed by Hilary Monahan. If you like horror and you like YA, I would pick up Hilary Monahan. Her writing is like just amazing, and this is actually scary, like nail-biting scary. Very good. And then I finished up October with Alice by Christina Henry, a adult retelling of Alice in Wonderland. I gave this one 5 stars, I think, or 4.5 stars. It was really, really good. All right, we're on to November. And then I read And the Trees Crept In by Dawn Kurtagich. This was definitely a strange read. I believe I gave this 4 stars. It reminded me of a movie, which I can't say because it'll spoil the book. But this is the second book written by Dawn Kurtagich, and I will definitely be picking up more books by her in the future. And then I read Diary of a Haunting by M. Verano. This book was amazing. It's in a diary format, super good. It's about a haunted house, super scary. I loved everything about it. The twist at the end, I did not see coming. I didn't see any of it coming. This was actually very, very, very good. And then I read Gemina. This is the sequel to Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This sci-fi YA is so good. I don't know how many books they're going to have in the series. I know the third book comes out in the fall of this year. It was just delightful. I absolutely loved it. And then I finished up November with The Boy Meets Girl Massacre by Ainsley Hogarth. And this was just okay. Very gross. I think I gave this one 3 or 3.5 stars. Really nasty. We are down to the very last month, and what did I read in December? I read Etiquette and Espionage by Gail Carriger. This is the first book in the Finishing School series. This is the prequel to The Parasol Protectorate. And then I read Oink, Heaven's Butcher by John Mueller. This is a graphic novel where the main character is a... It's not called swine. Maybe it is. It's just a pig-human hybrid. And it's very religious-based. And it's in a dystopian world. And it was good. And then I read the sequel to The Mind Gap. It's called Wish You Were Here. So this is volume 2. Written by McCain and illustrated by Esquijo. I am loving this series. But it reminds me of Morning Glories. And so the plot's very confusing. And there's all these different things going on, but I love the illustrations in the book, and yeah, it's an adult mystery. Good. Next, I read Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk. This is a collection of short stories wrapped up into an actual novel, so I believe there's like 21 or 23 short stories in here, written by 17 different main characters. They're all at a writing retreat, and they all put in their stories into this book. But again, there's a main storyline. I gave this one 3 or 3.5 stars. And then I read With Malice by Eileen Cook. Eileen Cook. Really good YA mystery. I think this debuted this year. And yeah, so good. I didn't see a lot of things coming. I think I gave this one 4 stars. And then I read The Delightfully Cute Nimona by Noelle Stevenson. This is also the illustrator of Lumberjanes. Such a cute graphic novel about a villain and his sidekick. 2 more. And then I read Ghosted, which is volume 1. Haunted Heist. This is by Joshua Williamson, Gordon Sudzuka, and Miroslav Miva. I butchered that. But this is about a man who was in jail, and he gets let out to steal a ghost, and what happens with all of that. And then the very last book that I read in the year 2016 was Diary of a Haunting, book 2, The Possession, and by M. Verano. This was not as good as Diary of a Haunting. They are not sequels. They are companion novels, like for the same kind of storylines. Like, I guess M. Verano is a fictional author, kind of like Lemony Snicket. And he is a historian of the paranormal, and so he writes these books. This one, like I said, wasn't as good as Diary of a Haunting. I would skip this one. You don't have to read that one. Okay, that's it. That was my 73 books that I read this year, which was my hashtag Read Your Own Damn Books challenge for the year 2016. Did you participate in this challenge? If you did, let me know what books you read this year, or if you just were very good at reading your own books, let me know down below. And that is it. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!